And we're here.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, all. Welcome Wednesday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and we just had a very productive conversation with Osiris of Stuck in the Middle. So for those of you who are familiar with the Stuck in the Middle podcast, maybe you're not.
If you're not, check it out.
Definitely check it out, and hopefully you'll find our conversation over there entertaining. I believe some of them did. So we do have a interesting show tonight. We did obviously get into the conversation at length over on his channel, but of course the big story, one of the big stories that of course is never going to get the proper attention that it should, is the fact that the Democrats have decided that they are not even going to bring the ban stock trading by Congress bill to the floor.
Although Osiris did make a really good point that the loophole in that, even if they were to bring that to the floor, is big enough to that they could all fit through. So on the one hand, they're not bringing it to the floor, but on the other hand, even if they did, it wouldn't have any real teeth.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of pathetic all around. How's that?
Well, again, do we really give a damn about working people in the United States? And the answer is universally no, we don't. And of course, when you have these types of circumstances where, you're kind of looking at this from the perspective of, we really don't have a republic anymore. It's just kind of disintegrated into this full-fledged oligarchy, and those that have the ways and means get to control everything. Those of us that don't are not able to do anything about it. When they're rubbing it in your face like this, it's pretty damn bad. And so, the way I see it, and then I think the way you see it, is the more that it's put out in the open so blatantly, so deliberately, is how we're ultimately going to get the major change in this country that we need, because people need to use
hubris will ultimately be what kills them. It's sort of what always comes for the very, very elite, is that they can't build their moats wide enough. But when you see somebody like Nancy Pelosi being booed, which, by the way, if you're new, I believe that anybody who is a representative in any branch of government, quite honestly, and they act against the interest of the majority of people, that they should not get a moment's peace anywhere they go in public.
Oh, those are dangerous words you're saying.
No, I'm talking nonviolent. But if somebody wants to walk in behind Kristen Sinema into the bathroom while she's in the stall and talk to her because she refuses to hold office hours and speak to her constituents, then they should do that. I think that if you want to disrupt somebody like Ted Cruz's dinner, have at it. I think that people
I don't know why people think it's so controversial.
No, because they're worried about decorum. We're so far past that, people. We are so far past that. When everybody has their basic needs met, then I'll be happy to discuss about decorum.
And of course, when you're speaking about decorum, knowing that that was such a major issue, Senator McConnell came out and talked about how much he absolutely loves Senator Sinema. Now she's such a great Democrat and does wonderful things. Listen, if Senator McConnell is talking about how great you are, it also means what a failure you are.
Well,
because the only thing that makes McConnell...
The question is, does he ultimately bite you on the neck and make you immortal?
No,
because you don't want to be like Mitch McConnell. So.
No, you definitely don't. So if Mitch McConnell is saying that you're doing good politically, it means you are doing not bad politically. You are horrifically bad.
Well, it's just not a good compliment. You got to know the source.
I can remember years ago when McConnell this was back in 08, 09, and I can remember him crying because I think some GOPer who's terrible was retiring. I can't tell you how much I love working with
this man. Can't believe that he can produce tears.
He's not human.
Well, that's why I'm so shocked he could produce tears.
What would you call him? You're like...
He's immortal.
Yeah, he's immortal.
He's like a crypt keeper.
He is the crypt keeper. I am the crypt keeper.
He is the crypt keeper.
He is crypt keeper. He's just terrible. I mean, he really is. But of course, Senator Sinema is thinking about her long-term financial opportunities. And if she aligns herself with Mitch McConnell, she's definitely going to have him. And a curtsy vote down, Remember, that's one thing that I always remember was when she was going to make that down vote about the $15 minimum wage. What was so amusing about that was the fact that she made a V line to McConnell to tap him and say hi when she was walking over to make the vote. Imagine having penis envy for Mitch McConnell. Of all people.
I just don't even want to hear that word in relation to Mitch McConnell.
Well, sorry.
That's just gross.
Yeah, I know. Terrible as it may be. But that, unfortunately, is the state of our politics as it stands today. We will talk at even more length regarding the current circumstances regarding unfortunately, what is not going to turn into a vote on the floor, even though it should. One of the biggest reasons, of course, is our Congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, was going to be a no vote on that. And everybody knows that. She's a consistent insider trader, has violated the Stock Act more times than one can count. If you're not following Unusual Whales on Twitter, that is an excellent account. We'll tell you exactly what all of these nefarious representatives are up to, especially ours. And so making sure that I know it's a
I know, but it's you're
scaring you
a little bit. I don't like you
flinging
the pen around.
Well, no, I would not do that, and I would never hurt you with a pen. So I promise
you would just do it with your hands.
Yeah. Oh, I can't do it. My hands are not strong enough.
So gross. They'll fall off. They'll break off.
Yeah, you would have to think at this point he's like skin and bones.
He's just he's so gross.
All right, if you want to convince me that there's any political representative that drinks blood in order to stay young or stay alive for that matter, Mitch McConnell would be number one on that list. Like he strikes me as somebody who will drink blood.
So gross.
He's the Grim Reaper. Oh, he drinks souls. He drinks your soul, right?
He's just so gross.
Yeah, he's gross. He's unfortunately one of the dying members of our horrific political establishment. But then again, we could always get a new political establishment that's really, really terrible. And so, of course, what is one of the things that we really emphasize a lot on our channel is transforming politics into service. And who better serves the community than small businesses? We are huge emphasis on small business. That is what we do. That is what we all should be doing. And that has nothing to do with politics, quite frankly. It's a completely nonpartisan issue. Everyone, I would imagine, is in agreement that it is better to shop small and buy local than it is to buy big or shop in retail or big box stores.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder.
Sometimes you don't have a choice. But when you do have a choice, it always pays to support the local business. And why is supporting small business a good thing?
Well, that's how you keep the diversity in your communities going. And you can have all different kinds of businesses and not all the same thing. And it just keeps everybody, everybody doing their own thing. Why would I want everything to be made in China at Walmart?
Totally want it made in China. No, that's terrible. You don't want it made in China. That's one thing you say about Trump. He said he's
China, even
though he makes his own stuff in China. But
you guys, seriously, a really good drinking game when he was doing the debates was every time he said China, I had to smoke a bowl and our guests had to take a drink.
And every time Joe said, "Come on, man.
Come on, man."
Yeah, here are the facts, Jack. So bad. But the good news is that we have, and we are putting an even greater emphasis with our show. As you guys know, we recently had our very first small business sponsor. I think that's the best way to describe
it. It's a Patreon. It's on Patreon, which is, guys, anywhere from $5 a month is very appreciated. But we would like to have small business sponsors, and we will only take on any one type of business. Like we're not going to have businesses competing here. So our very first small business sponsor, a
very important small business, we must say, at this current time, considering Hurricane Ian is blasting through the southwest coast of Florida right now.
People.
Fort Myers is probably going to look a little bit like Homestead when it's all said and done, as sad as that is to say. So why are we mentioning that? Well, Apex Insurance Agency, which deals with home insurance as well as auto and life, very, very important. They are an official sponsor of our show now, and they are a small operation based out of Delray Beach. So if you're looking for home protection, and Lord knows a lot of people are going to need it right now, this is definitely a company that you're going to want to check out.
Keep it local.
That's keeping it local. And of course, when we talk about other things regarding small business, we now have a wonderful guest who is about to join us on our show, who knows a thing or two about the beauty industry. And Lord knows I like to look my finest before I come on the show.
She's going to judge my lashes.
That's okay.
She's going to judge my lashes.
She'll fix them for
No, I'm not, because I do not want, No, and she'll even tell you the truth. If you don't wear makeup regularly, it's not necessarily worth it to do it. I don't wear makeup enough that it's.
Well, we can't all have the natural glow that you have, Jen.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yes, it is absolutely par for the course. But of course, she is the owner and operator of Lashley Brows. Oh, God, I want to say this wrong. Lashley. This is so not my territory because I'm not there. I'm not really a beauty guy. She does
lashes and they do brows, and I know that they do. But now brows I can get into, but I'm not messing with lash extensions.
Lashley Brows. Okay, so we're gonna get it right, and she's gonna tell us all about her wonderful studio, which is located here in Broward County in Wilton Manors, one of the very fun communities here in South Florida. And of course, a town that has a wonderful candy shop that you always like to rave about.
I do.
Ashley Santiago, welcome to Generational Change.
Hi, that was an amazing introduction, even though you got it a little wrong. But
well, if I said it wrong, then you got to correct me. There's nothing wrong with that. We want to get it right.
Yeah.
So what is the official? Well, great. What is the official name of the place?
So it's Lashley Brows Beauty.
Lashley Brows Beauty. Okay. Well,
you almost had it. You almost had it. That was good though.
Yeah, I tried my best, but you are certainly one who understands quite a bit about beauty. You are a lovely lady in your own right. So please tell our audience a little bit about your business, how you got it started, what brought you to Broward, if you're from here, obviously all those goodies, please.
Just talk about what you're doing and what's kind of, what you're offering, and promote your business.
Absolutely. Well, basically I am located in Wilton Manors. So a little background story of me. I actually started out of my mom's spare bedroom doing lashes when COVID started to hit. So I kind of just started to build my own clientele, and basically 4 months later, I got my own studio still during COVID times, and I just started to grow and expand and basically take new courses and really educate myself in the business and the beauty industry as well. And after I got my studio, I was located in Sunrise, so still in Broward. And I kind of just decided to go to Oakland Park because I feel like it's up and coming. It's close to Fort Lauderdale, so you kind of get a little bit of movement there more than anywhere else. And so a year later after my studio, I just kind of decided to make that huge jump and just trust the universe, trust, myself to just kind of make it work. And it's been going great. So far, we've been there for about 6 months now.
And so you're in Oakland Park.
Yes, Oakland
Which
Park.
is the up and coming next to Wilton Manors. And it's actually a really smart place, I think, to get in, because never underestimate the power of the gaze when you're talking about anything having to do with what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Seriously good. That's a really good place to be located. And there are definitely a lot of innovations. You and I talked about this. I'm not a lash extension person.
I know. I'm trying to make you a lash extension person.
No, but explain it, because really it's not for someone like me that only wears mascara a couple times a week. It isn't worth it for me to do that maintenance, but it is worth it potentially for people that are doing it every day, right?
Absolutely. So a little bit about the shop. So right now we currently offer lash extensions. We do brows, we do permanent makeup, we do makeup for special occasions as well. But a little bit about the lashes. So I know that you were concerned about you don't wear a lot of makeup, so you don't want anything too heavy to empower, your face, which that's totally fine. And that's the great thing I feel like about my business, that I always take in consideration you're not unsure about. So for you, I would kind of do a look that has kind of like a mascara look. So you don't even have to apply mascara, but it still will look natural. So it's not going to look too crazy. In some cases, some artists just have, there's certain appeal, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be too much for you. So I really think that you just need to trust me.
No, it isn't about trusting what it would even look like. I'm sure it would look really good. I just don't want the maintenance and the upkeep of extensions.
Yes.
And that's the problem. It's how much time am I willing to dedicate to go deal with it? And I don't. I keep personal grooming maintenance to a minimum. And here's the thing. When you get older, you're going to need more maintenance. Okay. So as you get older, that time increases. So what maybe, you don't spend a lot of time. For me, it's like an ordeal, right? There's a lot of added elements. And when you get to my age, you'll understand that the time that you have to spend doing it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, I know. It's a luxury service. It definitely is a luxury to have, because it's not a necessity. But if you are just trying to look good all the time and not have to spend mascara and driving while putting mascara on.
Okay, never do that. Never, ever, ever do that. People. Have you not seen that you can get it in your eye? Ouch. Good God, do not hold pointy things towards your eye, even in a parked car. Don't be stupid. You can get rear-ended and you'll end up with a poker in the eye.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get you there slowly but surely. Surely but surely. Maybe for your birthday. I'm telling you, I'm really good at convincing. And
all right. Well, we'll talk about it, but I'll definitely let you guys do my makeup the next time I have headshots done or something like that. For sure. What about you, Peter? He definitely could use his eyebrows being tamed. He definitely needs his eye. Oh no, they're wily. He'll have one like that just stick out like this.
It's okay. I am your girl. I am your girl. Whenever you're ready.
Boys think that it like him think it's like a girl thing.
No,
I didn't say that. I think that my eyebrows are definitely kind of out of place every once in a while.
They could use a little effort.
They could use a little effort. Well, I've got like the worst cowlick, so my hair
I know, I feel
grows like a certain way, so I couldn't be perfect, so it's unfortunate.
This is someone who uses a rose quartz roller on his face when he does his weekly facial.
The hell is wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with it, but if you're willing to do that, you could groom your eyebrows.
Listen, it's an upkeep, and we also do facials too. So listen, we'll take men, women, whoever come on by.
All right, absolutely.
The shop, you guys should definitely come on by.
I will. You know what? I will come by because I do need to get my eyebrows dealt with at some point in the near future.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well,
where are you guys? You guys are in Fort Lauderdale, right?
No, I'm in Plantation.
Yeah, Plantation.
I like Plantation too.
Awesome. I have to be out here. It's where my kid goes to school in Weston. Like this is as far west as I have. Like I can't be any further east, really.
Well, it's a lot more quiet from the hustle and bustle that is, it definitely makes a big difference between what you're going to find in the Fort Lauderdale area versus what you find in the west end of the county. But I think that being able to take care of yourself is important.
Well, let me ask you this though. How do you find being, you ran your small business during COVID. How do you find that being in some place like Florida where we've got obviously really high overhead? Like it can't be easy. And you're dealing with an industry for you where it's got to be volume.
Honestly, I feel like COVID helped me just get out of my comfort zone. So I feel as if, when life throws you a difficult thing, you just have to look at the positive thing and just keep going, because a lot of people got destroyed in COVID. I excelled during COVID. So I really think, it's about, for me personally, I know that I'm in the service industry, so you have to constantly see people, but it's quality over quantity for me. And I feel like that is really what stands me out from being a small business, because I feel like being a small business, you think that, okay, I want more quantity, I want more people. But once you realize that it's about the community and building bonds, like how I met you guys, building that bond with you guys and really connecting, that's really what stands me out. And that's why I'm here doing my business and basically just trying to keep growing. That's really what it's about for me.
Yeah. And I would love people to support businesses like yours, guys. Support the small businesses. I will admit that I do Euro Wax, but in all fairness to me, I started Euro Wax when it was one business at Aventura and it was the brothers that owned it. But I do like to get my brows done by small places like you guys. So it's important to support that and not just do like the big businesses.
Yeah. I think it definitely makes a big difference when you are able to get out in the community and meet people. How do you find, building the business, you can be very effective using social media. I obviously follow what you do on Instagram, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other tricks of the trade that you do to try to, get people into the shop. How do you find that it's been most effective for you, whether it is through social media, whether it is through getting out to these networking events? How do you find that that's working for you in terms of the effectiveness of building it?
I kind of have to go back to what I said originally. It's really about building connection. Even if you're through social media, even if you're in person, it's about just not even selling yourself, but just being yourself and having people really fall in love with what you do and your passion, because I have a passion. So I feel like I have so much love for this industry that people that want to support me would just follow me. And I just kind of trust that in me, that you just have to keep doing what you love. And I feel like that portrays a lot in social media as well. So I'm very big on social media. I love it because I build a community. It's not just about clients and getting people in the door, but it's about motivating women and helping women to get inspired to follow their dreams. So that's one of my biggest thing, and I feel like that's why I still keep to be successful in social media and in my business, because that kind of helps me to just get in touch with people. So that really means a lot to me.
Right. Just no, but you're right. The truth is that there's no secret other than people need to like you.
Yeah.
That's really what it is with everything. If somebody likes you, then that's it. You know, then they'll go out of their way to go to you, to use your services. Like if somebody likes you, that's way more important than any other aspect, because you don't have to be convenient if someone likes you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And as you know, it's very competitive down here. But what we will do is I think we will make plan to get over to her.
Yeah, I will. I'm not touching my eyelashes. No, I'm not touching my eyelashes, but I'll deal with my brows.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, definitely come visit us, and we would love to have you guys, honestly. And I really do appreciate this opportunity to have.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah,
for
if
sure.
if you ever want to be a small business sponsor of our show, or any sponsor in between, we're more than happy to plug the show on the regular. Again, our goal is to support as many small local businesses as we can, and of course, the goal of our podcast, with whatever revenue we're able to generate, is to, again, it's
service.
It's service, give and take. So we're basically, we're doing this because we want to help, and so any support that you would be providing our show is basically going to come directly back to you.
Right.
So that's how we see it.
Absolutely. No.
Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us.
Ashley, do you have a website that people can go to?
Where do you want people to go?
Where do you want people to go?
Yeah, so definitely follow me on Instagram. I'm very into Instagram right now. So Lashley Brows Beauty. So Ashley Brows and then Beauty. And then also, Facebook, Lashley Brows Beauty as well. So definitely we can get in touch there.
Putting that out there right now.
Guys, check it out.
And Ashley also has a website. Obviously, that is readily available, especially on the Instagram page, where you can find it there.
See, now I'm following you.
Yeah, there you go. So
don't tell anybody that I have an Instagram. I don't post anything.
We have a business Instagram.
Right. That I'm not talking about the business one. Right. Like my personal, I don't post anything. So you won't ever see me. I'll see you.
Don't worry.
Actually, it's been a real pleasure having you on. Best of success for your business. Looking forward to hopefully networking off each other further, and maybe dealing with my eyebrows at some point.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great night.
You do the same.
Bye, guys.
That would be a totally fun thing to do, like a live stream of you getting your eyebrows done. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like that would be something that would be, well, it would be way entertaining for me. It might get like some views. No, it would make you look like well kempt, which is what you should be.
I don't want to look too well kempt.
No, I assure you, you will not look too well kempt.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I think I'm doing pretty.
You're okay. I think
I'm doing pretty good for 39. So
is that what it is? It's an age thing.
Maybe. I mean, we definitely don't. Well, look, the older you get, the faster you age. So the more you can try to slow it down.
I look so good for 60.
Yeah.
I know. I look great.
60.
I look so good.
I knew it. Knew you were lying the whole time.
I just figure if I always lie older, I'll look great. If I always lie older.
No, but the truth is, most people do think that you're very young.
I am young. In my mind, I'm 26.
Well, I guess you can.
I really feel like that. Like I really,
I don't know if
not
I
always
can
physically
agree with that, Comedy Calamity, but I could definitely say that real men do take care of themselves.
Do you know real men groom themselves? And it really depends on the individual. Some people's eyebrows might not get unruly, and so then you don't need to necessarily deal with them. Some people, it really depends on the person. You just need to be aware of your own needed, upkeep.
So we will have our next guest, Scott Lively, who will be coming in about 5 minutes. And so that conversation should be very
It's going to be really interesting. I have I have copious
have
notes from the book. I read, you guys know I take, I note things.
Well, considering, was he a top? Was he a full?
He was, he full? Was. He and he had his kids as well.
Boy, he would love for you to go again.
Yeah, probably.
And considering
he's great.
Yeah,
but he's not a Democrat.
No, I wouldn't say. Look, like I said, there is that Osiris vote that's out there, or that support, even if it isn't necessarily a voter if you were to run again in a primary, but definitely the type of financial support. Absolutely. would definitely like to see somebody like you in the halls of Congress. And again, it doesn't hurt that you would be running against one of the most anti-small business politicians that you can possibly
now going
have.
from, well, what we're doing right now is we're going from small business to ginormous business. Is what we're doing
look,
now.
when we talk about the biggest conglomerates in the United States, there's three of them. There's big pharma, there's big oil, and there's big agriculture.
And one of the biggest pieces of that is really meat. And that's something we get into here, even though it's the food, like, even though it's the Department of Agriculture, when you're reading this book, Scott even says you might as well just call it the Department of Meat, because that is the bulk of who controls it.
And it's a very,
I don't know if you knew that, it's meat.
And it's an extremely cutthroat industry from what I understand. Like,
no pun intended.
No pun intended. I swear there was no pun to that.
There's 4 big meat packers in the United
Okay.
States, and all companies. And even when you see something that you think is the organic brand, also they play all sorts of games. I mean, we'll talk about it, but like, they've learned that putting the name farms as opposed to ranch is more comforting to people. So they'll put like, you know, Dakota Farms or whatever they put on it, but really it all traces back to Purdue. So there's 4 companies that own 80% or so of the beef.
And then you have the small business
There's a
owners
few. And what this book really, that I think is really good, is it really puts in people's heads, especially people, more for people who do eat meat. Like, this is just information for people who eat meat to be able to ask the right questions, where your meat comes from, how is your meat being raised? And he has a lot of very strong opinions on sustainable agriculture and interweaving it with grazing animals, which we've done shows on that.
Sure.
And it's really about using cattle as part of sustainable farming. And the way and also with grass-fed beef, it's a completely different thing than what we're talking about it. But most beef is not organic grass-fed beef. So he wrote a book about the industry, and it's really the good, the bad, and the ugly. It really is. And the name of the book is For the Love of Beef, the Good, the Bad, and the Future of America's Favorite Meat.
And it is kind of interesting how so much of it is politically driven, because again, as we alluded to, if you guys want to check out a podcast that we did this evening, we were on Stuck in the Middle with Osiris. One of the things that we had emphasized, which is very true, is that when it comes to the Second Amendment, when it comes to the issue of guns, responsible gun ownership is a huge thing that most people should really be thinking about, especially if they're not willing to give up meat altogether. If you are able to hunt, that gives you a distinct advantage when it comes to whether or not you are going to emit a high carbon footprint. Those that hunt do not. Factory farming is without question one of the biggest emitters of carbon in the world, especially when we're talking about cow grazing. I mean, my God.
Yeah, and that also has to do with what they're fed. Cows that eat corn produce infinitely more methane than cows that are grass-fed. And so there's a lot of parts of the process. Also, the level of transportation. This is something that he says, 80% of our organic beef is imported in this country. So when you're talking about importing and huge transportation costs, that's definitely a big carbon footprint versus smaller sustainable ranches with nearby packing industries. Like there's a way to do this so that it's infinitely less of an impact on our ecosystem.
Metalopoly, who is with us from Stuck in the Middle podcast, thank you for subscribing and joining us on our channel. Yeah. Yes, I definitely think that the olive branch is there. There are many issues that I think a lot of us do agree on, as we alluded to previously. And of course, small business support.
That's what we're trying to do. Metalopoly, what you're saying there is essentially like the purpose of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And that's
is base things on reason and bring people together on like-minded issues and do it per issue.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree on abortion. If we can work together on, climate change, that's great. Or whatever, we don't have to agree on everything to get things done.
And it's pretty obvious where the country actually stands on abortion. And that doesn't mean that you're going to get, this is the thing. If you want to talk about the big issue here with the Democrats and why this is all about political gamesmanship and not about the needs of women in this country who have very legitimate reasons as to why they may need to terminate a pregnancy. I don't want to hear from any religious crazies about your opinion about this, because every person is an individual. This is a libertarian belief system that I espouse. You have to remember that when it is on the ballot, especially in dead red Kansas, it overwhelmingly passes. Now, they still vote GOP, but they're voting on the issue itself that they really believe in. So anytime it's making it on the ballot, it's moving in the direction of where the populist opinion of the country actually is. In Indiana, that was when the legislature made the decision for the people. That's a problem. And it wouldn't make much of a difference because that is a very red state. You have to hold your elected representatives accountable that are doing things like that. No one should have to suffer for that if it's up to the people to decide. And most people from a politically populist perspective, left or right, believe that it should be made in the decision of the people, not in the decision of the electeds. The electeds respond to us, not the other way.
I would say to the people that are on the right side in terms of partisan politics in this country, if you would just stop fighting on this issue and just let people have, like, if this would stop being an issue, if you would like overpower the religious right in your party and you would just stop making this an issue, you will take away anything the Democrats have. You'll take away anything that they have. If you give up on that issue, then the Democrats will have nothing.
Which, just abortion?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's not the only issue.
Oh, in this election, if they weren't fighting over abortion right now.
Oh, well, if it wasn't for this election, yes, I would agree with that.
No, and I just think in general, Democrats fundraise and campaign heavily off of the choice issue. If they didn't have that, they really don't have anything else. So I don't know what you think they'd be campaigning on if they weren't out there fighting. If there wasn't a Roe v. Wade thing right now, the Democrats would be campaigning on nothing.
Colanello, no one is talking about lining up with fascists.
No.
So that's, again, you're talking about a straw man and pegging everyone on the right as a fascist.
That's not how it works. That's not what fascism is.
Just like not everybody on the left is a commie. So let's be 100% about that.
Yeah, no straw manning.
Okay, so here's an interesting question, and this is an interesting way of framing it. Pro-choice believes it's not a person until born. Pro-life believes it's literally killing a baby. How can there be a compromise in such diametrically opposed position?
Well, I actually am pro-choice, and I do believe that it is a life, and I do believe that you are taking a life. However, I believe that the life of the mother in her civil liberties trumps all, and that whether or not somebody is even pregnant is nobody else's concern. See, you shouldn't have to know whether or not somebody is terminating a pregnancy and get involved in it because it's nobody's business. And that's the problem. It is not pro-life, it's anti-choice. There's for choice and there's against choice. Nobody is pro-abortion, so there's no such thing as anti-abortion. I reject that narrative entirely. So I am not pro-abortion. I am anti-abortion. I think that's not a good thing. I think that most people don't want that and don't choose that. But I think it's none of my business what other people do in a room with their physician. I think that that's just not my business. And I do think that it is taking a life. So don't say that you think people on the left don't think that it's an unborn child isn't a life, because I do think that.
And the most disturbing
And I've had 2 of them.
Yeah. And the most disturbing part, if you think about it, is what we've discovered over the course of the past several months regarding Roe v. Wade is how many men think it's their place to tell a woman what to do with their body.
Fascinating, isn't it?
And we've got this. And listen, when people talk about Governor DeSantis and the issues that we have with him as governor, he is nowhere close to being in the radical part of the GOP here in this state.
No.
We have this state senator, Erin Grahl. I mean, the one woman you can say, but you want to talk about a person who is a complete psychopath regarding abortion, and her with the necklaces and everything.
She looks like she would love The
Handmaid's Tale. Right out of it. Right out of it. 100%.
Yeah. Like basically, I bet she probably loves Amy Coney Island.
Yeah.
Like that's probably like her person. Yeah, I'm done talking about the choice issue. I'm really done negotiating it. I'm not discussing it. I'm not debating it. I don't want to. I don't have to, because the bottom line is whether you agree with it or not, the majority of this country supports a woman's right to choose, period. Yeah. So if you like the idea of a democracy or democratic republic, if you think that that means that it's a majority rule, then you have to accept that when your position, your opinion is in the minority, that you don't get your way.
Yeah,
I do. I'm against capital punishment. I don't think that should be a thing. And I get that most people support that, and I am in a minority, and so I don't get my way. That doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but that's how democracy is supposed to work.
And again, every circumstance is different, but what you have to remember also is that we're looking at a country, especially if we're trying to build this type of what I consider to be the Progressives and Libertarians coalition. That's the biggest and best coalition that could be built in the United States. And one of the big issues is how we spend our money.
Again, real progressives.
Correct. And so one of the big issues when it comes to the death penalty is how much financial waste goes into that. When you calculate how much more money it costs to put somebody on death row versus just give them life in prison, it's
okay. But as somebody who's argued this with people like ad infinitum, what I could tell you is what they say is that yes, because they shouldn't get so many appeals. So then they say, oh, but it shouldn't cost so much to execute somebody. Like if you were to ask my dad at certain points in his life, he'd say, just take him out back and shoot him. But you know, we're trying to have some sort of civilization here. I personally, I've always been vehemently opposed to the death penalty. It's not my jam, but I recognize that I am not in the majority.
One thing we will mention before we bring Scott on is Colonello. One thing I will say, and that you have to understand this, one of the big reasons why the Second Amendment has become such a hot button for the libertarian right is because our police are already militarized. Like,
yeah,
this is not, it will give the police an excuse to be militarized. Ever since the war in Iraq, which is one of, I mean, it's our generation's Vietnam. It is as bad as one can imagine, even though we're kind of still living through it because war in the Middle East is still going on. But the amount of waste, real financial waste that went into that war, the weapons of war that were created, where do you think a lot of it ended up? Look at, I mean, Bill Maher did a great spot on this years ago, basically showing how all the militarized gear,
it's the surplus goes to the police departments.
They would go to these local police departments in the middle of,
because you need them to have tanks.
Yeah, because they need tanks. They really need tanks for protection.
But look, when you're a country that what you make the most of is weapons and
that's
military, right? Yeah. That you're not going to have a world wherein we're going to get rid of them. You're going to see more of them because that's what we do.
Hey, Suze, I would definitely agree with that. History has shown that a firing squad is probably the most. Again, if you have to do it.
I'm not. Look, personal opinion. I'm just saying. I personally, yes, I'm not saying I agree that it's not.
It's amazing how many different things that we could possibly cover at one time. But we are not going to keep our wonderful guest waiting any longer because he is not only a very solid writer who definitely knows a thing or two. He's also a huge supporter of Jen. So
well, he was very supportive, and he was one of the earlier people that I support. He was one. I think I found him from Call Time. I think I randomly called him when I was sitting there with Makita, and I think I randomly found him in Call Time. But
we'll definitely make sure if you did run again, not to make we would use it much better.
We know better what we're doing now.
Yeah, and so with that said. He is a organic beef entrepreneur.
Grass-fed, not just organic. It's grass-fed. It is important.
He is also the author of For the Love of Beef, which, ladies and gentlemen,
The Good, the Bad, and the Future of, I think it's America's Favorite Meat.
Well,
I can't because this is the thing is that I kindled it because he didn't send one to me. Bring him on. Let's chat.
Scott Lively, welcome to Generational Change.
How you guys doing? Nice to talk to you.
It's nice to see you in person. We've never actually met.
No, and you're right. You called me out of the blue on like a Thursday or Friday night, and I just picked up the phone.
Isn't that just weird?
Yeah, and we had a lot in common. And you told me you're running for Congress, and I'm a very, I think, a strange political view person. Yeah. I'm incredibly right wing, but I'm also a massive progressive. I'm incredibly anti-war. I'm incredibly, at the same time, free speech. Support gay marriage. I'm an anomaly, and we hit it off. And I was happy to support you.
No, it was awesome. I appreciate it. And you definitely represent an industry that gets a lot of controversy, especially as we're people that are progressives. I hate labels, but we tend to be appealing to the left. Yeah. And there's a lot of very anti-meat sentiment. And I don't eat meat, but not because I think I would act, if I were going to eat meat, I would eat what you do. I would eat it when it's sustainable. I would. I don't like industrialized animals.
I think that factory farming is an issue, and I think that if you do read my book, go ahead.
You were supposed to send me an autographed copy.
I know I did. I absolutely sent you a copy. So I will resend you a copy, but I know I did.
Because I did read. I kindled.
Well, I definitely sent you a hard copy, and I'll send you both a copy tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
So, I treat meat like an indulgence. It's not my daily sustenance. Actually, my newest venture is a plant-based food company that's called Plants to Food, and it's the world's largest plant-based food co-manufacturer in Lincoln, Rhode Island. And I just literally bought this company on Thursday. So
wow. All right. Well, we'll have to talk about that. We'll have to talk about that because that's interesting, especially since you, towards the end of this book, you're talking about the plant-based meat options. Which
I am absolutely, look, just if you're going to eat plants, eat plants. You don't need to disguise it.
It's Frankenfood. It's Frankenfood, right?
Yeah, it's great. Mitch Hedberg, the comedian that passed away, had the best line about, fake turkey, turkey bacon, turkey ham. He's like, just be a turkey. You're good enough like you are. You don't have to pretend to be anything else. And I think that's one of the funniest lines. And I think that if vegans want to eat fake hamburger, why? Just, there's so many great plant-based options with like a few ingredients.
I think people crave that meat flavor. They really do. And look, after reading this, as you are definitely the connoisseur of meat flavor, so I would think you would understand.
And I love beef. I love the flavor, but I also believe in restraint and control in all parts of your life. And I think that I probably, beef twice a week, anywhere from 4 to 10 ounces. I'm just, I love it. I really do. It makes me feel charged. And there's a line that it doesn't, you don't eat beef to stay alive. You want to feel alive. I get a big energy when I eat a protein. My Thursday nights are still a New York strip by myself, nothing else. Maybe a little bourbon. And I kind of do my thing. But on a daily basis, I would say that I'm 80% plant-based, just for my diet and my health. And I'm older now. I'm 50. So at my age.
Okay, I'm still older than you.
I forget that sometimes. You look younger than me.
Thank you. Well, you know what? I haven't worked as hard as you have either. Like I haven't been running a big company and traveling all over.
I watched your campaign on social media. You worked your ass off.
All right. Well, thank you. Talk a little bit about when you got started in this. And really, there's so many basic things that people have no clue what they're talking about with beef. And you even go into that pretty detailed about the amount of people that talk about what they have no idea what they're talking about. But talk about like really where the biggest threat you think comes from in that industry. You talk about the big four, but the misinformation, what do you think are the biggest threats and the things that people need to be aware about when they're, because I'm not opposed to people eating meat. I'm not, but let's be smart.
So I think where I talk about what's in a brand. I talk about branding. It's a chapter in the book. And there's so many amazingly clever taglines in the beef industry, all natural, never ever, pasture raised. All of those attributes can be attributed to conventional feedlot beef. They were once in a pasture. Okay. We very rarely use antibiotics and hormones anymore unless it's an animal sick. They are given growth hormones to an extent at a certain age. And this whole idea of never ever, there's no way of proving it or tracking it. It's basically an affidavit from the rancher saying, yeah, I never did this. Well, if you can grow an animal from 800 pounds to 1,250 pounds in record time, and all you got to do is sign a piece of paper that no one's checking on, and you're going to make anywhere from literally 18 to 25 cents a pound more. And on a 1,250 pound animal, that's a lot of money. You're going to do whatever. And so these self-policing mechanisms that are given to the label claims are just absolutely silly. I think it's just silly. I think that there are some things out there we could do, but it's going to be like, parallel parking the Titanic. There's just a lot to happen. But the biggest thing for me is when people read all natural or they read never ever, it has no meaning whatsoever. Even in the book, I talk about product of the USA.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be cattle grown in the USA. It doesn't have to be cattle slaughtered in the USA. As long as you grind that meat or cut that steak. Oh my God. If I'm going to lose you guys, I'm going to die. My battery's going low. You can put product USA as long as you've processed it to some extent in the USA. So I could buy millions of pounds of Uruguayan beef that's a year old in giant cubes, grind it in a Nebraska, not even add American beef, and legally put product of the USA on there.
Did you know that?
Did not know that.
And you also mentioned how much percentage of the organic meat in this country is imported. Like, and I don't think people understand what that does to the environment. Just that, like, yeah, it's better to have organic, but it would be better if the organic was closer. But why is it? Explain why it is that so much of our beef is imported.
It's really interesting because it's so much cheaper, or it used to be, and they have access to millions of pounds of trimmings. So what we import isn't really steaks, and it's not tenderloin and strip loin and ribeye and top sirloin. It's trimmings. It's lean points of like 85% fat, 85% meat, 15% fat, 85-15, 90-10. They import trimmings, and that meat used to be used to just dumb down our burgers because it was easy to source, it was cheap, and it was available. And because you could call it product waste and no one cared. We export some of our most amazing meat, literally goes to China and Japan. We export some of our best cuts we don't get here. We export those. And we import a ton of lean trimmings to make because of what's happened with supply chain issues, because of what's happened with just, since COVID, the world, imported beef has gone up, but there's such an addiction to it. They're still buying it. And what all that's done is drove up the cost of American beef. So now we used to pay $3.80 for 85-15 lean trimmings of American domestic organic. Import went through the roof because of the economy. So we had to chase it. So now everyone's paying more for beef because the import price went through the roof. And that really is the true economics of it.
Do you know what the exact calculation is regarding how much the average American consumes beef on a daily basis?
Yeah, the average American consumes over 60 pounds a year of red meat.
So that's the equivalent.
Somebody else in the world's taking my 60 and is doing 120
because I'm not. So it's the equivalent of almost eating a 1/4 pound cheeseburger from McDonald's every day. Like, it's basically that extent.
A little more, actually.
A little more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what that tells you is that we have a beef addiction. We just have a meat addiction in general.
Yeah.
And I really think,
because it's been so cheap for so long. So
it was pushed on us. Well, will you talk about how that happened? Because it happened after World War II with the corn and the overproduction, and so they gave it to the cows.
And then that really ties to the CRP land. I want to talk about Conservation Reserve Program. Quick question: if I lose you guys because my laptop looks like it's dying, and I don't have a charger, can I call back on my phone and it'll work okay? Okay, because I might drop you. I don't know.
No, that's okay.
So what happened is we had a major overstock of corn. The corn prices went through the toilet because in World War II, we were feeding the troops. We were making Coca-Cola. I mean, everything was corn. Okay, high fructose corn syrup became a thing in everything, and it was a cheap grain. It was easy to do it. What happened was they started feeding it to cattle. But to bring the corn prices up, they created what was called the Conservation Reserve Program, the CRP. And a farmer could take a percentage of his land and put it into CRP, where he agrees not to farm it for 100 years. And they'll pay him, anywhere from $200 to $1,000 an acre to not farm it for that 100 years. Now, a lot of these farms went into, they got inherited. And there's CRP farms still out there. Like 14 million acres. The problem is, if you're a smart farmer, you're not going to put your best luscious crops into CRP. You're going to put your unfarmable land. You're going to put your rocky, hilly, the area you would never plant corn to begin with is going to go into CRP, right? But that did drive up the price of corn. And, cattle started being affected by that because it was a quick gain and people couldn't believe how fast cattle gained. If you just fed cattle 90 days on corn, it was the exact same thing as feeding them for almost 9 months on grass.
Right.
That's how fast.
Cheaper. It's so much cheaper. You don't have to keep them alive.
But it's like sugar. It's a starch. It's like you and I eating McDonald's hamburgers every day. Right. You're going to get big, right? So now there's 14 million. I don't know if that's numbers. There's millions of acres of CRP land out there. But this land has not been farmed, which means it's not been sprayed. No herbicides, no pesticides, nothing. This would instantly qualify as organic certified pasture land. We could literally put together a government program. The government would have to get involved and allow regenerative grazing on CRP land, since there's no reason to flip it again. Corn prices are, World War II, we're not even affected by that. It's so stupid. Even it's in the 40s. Okay. You could graze regenerative cattle. You could graze a ton of animals on that land in a very humane, healthy, and regenerative way, where you're actually putting nitrogen where it belongs, is in the soil instead of in the air. And you could actually create a healthy cow ecosystem, and you wouldn't need all the corn to feed them, and it would be better for the people. It'd be better for everybody, because grass-fed beef is better for you. There's no question about it. It's not even
and it's better for the environment. It's 100%. Better for the environment. You know, we had one of the first shows we had was a woman who wrote a book called The Soil Will Save Us. Her name's Kirsten Olson, and it's all about regenerative agriculture. And it definitely talks about how you need to have the grazing animals rotating the different fields and just how it all works together. And it really makes so much sense when you think about it, but it costs more money to do it. And people,
it's more time consuming. It doesn't have to cost more, but it
takes
but
that's labor, right?
Yeah.
But is that like you're paying people more hours to watch animals for longer periods of time?
But you're not feeding them on an hourly basis or a daily basis, so it's less labor. You're putting them out, they're foraging. And cows want to eat, they want to forage. So a feed yard of 1,000 animals might employ 10 people. Okay. A pasture land of 660 acres would employ 2. Now, it's not about employment in that section. It's not that much more expensive, because you're basically just watching animals, making sure that you're head counting noses and butts at the end of the day. You're not cow calving. You're not breeding animals. You're just feeding them. It's called backgrounding. You're just making sure they gain weight and they're in the proper pasture. And that once they've depleted an area, you move them to the next, and you close that area off and you let it regenerate.
Right. People don't understand that if you let them graze too far below the line, then it can't regenerate. And that's why it's important to keep them moving. You can only let them graze like to a certain point above the ground. And then, right. Yeah. I mean, this is very common sense.
And what happened if you remember the Dust Bowl, the Grapes of Wrath and all that stuff, what happened is we took all this prairie land that was never meant to be farmed. It is, right. It is, we harvested it, we tilled it, we killed the root system. Then we planted crops. Then you had a little drought, not a big drought, you had like an 18-month drought. And then you had some high winds. And then all of a sudden the natural root system was gone, and you got the Dust Bowl, and it fell apart, because that land should have never been deemed for crop production. It would have been a great place to raise cattle, would have been a great natural place for them to, eat grass and switchgrass and alfalfa hay and all sorts of natural things that grew. But we destroyed it by undercutting millions of acres in the Oklahoma and Texas panhandle. And what did we get? We got the Dust Bowl, because when you screw with ecosystems and things change a little bit of dry, a little bit of heat, a little bit of high winds, they were pulling dust off cars in New York City. And it's because we misappropriated the land.
Did you ever think you would know this much about beef? Did you ever think you were going to be in the meat business? Did you foresee this?
Not even a little bit. No, I got into this because I have a supply chain management background in software and technology. I started from a tech point of view, and I've been doing it since 2003. Yeah.
So talk about your cows though. Talk about what the process is and why grass-fed is different, how your company operates. And remind me, it's Dakota, right? Is it Dakota?
That was my original company. I founded and sold that to a company called Myers Natural. My current business is Raise American, RAISE, raiseamerican.com. Okay. And it is a pasture-raised grass-fed program. We have another program that's a very high-end genetic cattle program called Spring Lake Ranch. And what our cattle are is they're carefully selected. I mean, we have a lot of producers. I mean, probably 600-700 cattle producers, but we're very strict about the feeding protocols, about the time on feed, the time and grass, and we monitor all that very clearly. Ranchers have to almost apply to be a supplier to us, and it's a very strict. It's more than just getting USDA organic certified. We really got to know what you're feeding them, what your rotation, what your pasture time is, what do you do in the winter. It's very involved. So we don't own the land or the farms. We own the cattle, and we pay people to feed them on their ranches.
Okay. And what you talk about in this book is the amount of companies that put out meat, but they've never owned the cattle. It was never their cattle.
Most meat companies are just brands. They've never owned anything but a steak.
So how do we know? Let's say we're going into the supermarket, because you talk a lot about, Yeah, I wish I had a great neighborhood butcher. I wish I did that. But let's be real, most of us don't. So how do you know? You know, I pick up something and it has whatever, like the one here is Maverick. Grass-fed beef out of Georgia, and it says product of Georgia, but where is it really from?
So I've known those guys that founded that. His name was Dave something from, I mean, I'm talking 20 years, and they used to be up in the Midwest. They've moved around. It's a brand. That is a brand owned by a major food packing company. I think it might be Buckhead Beef in Alpharetta, Georgia. They haven't owned a cow in 20 freaking years. The Maverick, I know that Dave, I can't remember his last name. God, I know the guy that founded that company. He was really big into heart and lung, and then like he was donated to the Olympics. He was a good guy. But his kids, when he passed away, his kids sold the business. And it's basically only sold in Publix. I think that's the only, but that really? Publix is huge. Publix is huge. But I mean, they're probably going to come after me, kill me, but Maverick hasn't owned an animal. I'm going to guess 20 years. They buy meat, they pack it, they put their label on it, and they call it Maverick Ranch.
So who owns meat? Like they buy it from the big packers. They buy it from IDP, Tyson, Cargill. Is there anybody that owns meat that we can know, like, okay, we're buying this product and it's actually people that are raising?
Yeah, well, we do. I mean, Raise American does, and not just to toot our own horn, but there's some great producers in Colorado that are doing some unique grass-fed Wagyu programs. I think one's called Three Forks or Three Bars. I can get you some names, but I can name 20 great producers.
Oh,
we lost him. That's okay. He'll call back on his phone. I do believe that is true. Okay, so Paul, I do believe that because there's even in this book, there's a chapter basically that beef is money. He's asking, is the title For the Love of Beef wordplay on the song?
I'm back. Sorry.
No, it's okay. He's asking, is For the Love of Beef wordplay on the Bone Thug song For the Love of Money?
No, For the Love of Beef, first of all, it's not the name that I wanted. I wanted to call it What's Your Beef? And my editor, my publisher made me change it. And For the Love of Beef is more of an accusation than it is a statement. It's more like everything we do and everything we go through just for the love of beef. It's not really about, hey, the problem, the book it's done great in Barnes and Noble and some other benefit, but it always ends up in the cookbook section, and it's not where it belongs.
No, it doesn't. Unless you're wanting to know how to butcher a cow and you want the diagram. That's in there.
No, so it's really interesting that I don't know if I should turn this way. Is that better? I'm really bad at this.
It doesn't matter. It's fine.
Okay. It's fine. This is only like my third podcast.
Are you east or west right now? Are you at
I'm
home?
in Martha's Vineyard. I'm at my home. Okay. Yeah. I've been here 21 years.
Oh, we could have
I told you he's there, and then I know you do Scottsdale.
I do Scottsdale in Arizona, and now I have a business in Denver. I have a really cool charcuterie, a really unique old school dry aged salami, bresaola, like old Italian dry aged meats in Denver. And now I
see your dry age room. You say you should always ask if you can see somebody's dry age room.
You come to my dry age room, Jen, and I will show you meat aging on the shelves. It's amazing. I age meat anywhere from 21 to 90 days, and it's phenomenal.
That would be.
People lie about it, by the way. That's the point about
and there's dry age and wet age. I can leave an animal. Again, I call it an animal. Sorry, everyone. I could leave a primal of ribeye in the cryovac for 90 days and call it wet aged. Well, it's just old. Okay. It didn't fucking do anything. Excuse my language.
I think it goes without saying that this is a very important conversation. One of the things that I criticize Democratic politics for significantly when it comes to the carbon footprint problem that we have in the country today is the liberal side of economic development tends to be very centralized. It's very city focused, and very often people do not understand the parameters of what it takes to actually be a farmer, and especially when it comes to being a beef farmer. Can you talk about the importance of kind of getting back to, the way things used to be where people were not adverse to, let's say, hunting for food? Because factory farming is, for all intents and purposes, maybe the biggest impediment we have to real climate policy in this country that can make a big difference.
Sure. So I'm going to meet you in the middle and say that, I hunt. I love the idea of hunting. I hunt pheasant. I don't do deer or elk. It's just not my thing. I don't want to drag anything out of the woods. It's more about my comfort.
It's labor intensive, right?
But I do love pheasant hunting, and I eat the fat. I love the meat, and I store it.
But I think that one of the biggest problems we have right now is the restrictions on farmers selling their meat locally to their own community. And that is being cracked down on like you wouldn't believe. And it's ridiculous.
That's all big ag, basically?
100%. 12 years ago, you could go in a small town to a local cold locker. You could say, hey, what do you have? And he'd say, I have this from this farmer. Or I could go to a farmer and say, hey, I want to buy that cow.
Yeah.
Have him killed to this locker. Leave. And it's called a locker because the meat stays there and you go get it as you need it. And that's how communities in the Midwest, I mean, through the 50s, 60s, and 70s thrived. It's becoming illegal. They don't want you getting meat. There was an Amish guy arrested for selling eggs and chicken like 2 weeks ago. And they're cracking down on you buying off the farm. That's absurd. That's the first biggest key that we have a major problem. And that is all big ag. That is all big beef. There's no question. There's no question. I mean, some of the best meat I ever had in my life, I've literally bought off the farm. My first 30 head of cattle I bought from a guy named Joel Risman in Seward, Illinois. I slaughtered them. Sold them door to door to Chicago restaurants. It was phenomenal meat. I haven't had anything that good in so long. And I think that we've got to not only allow these farmers to create their own markets and to create a local network for them to sell. Think about the supply chain here. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling on. Let me just get this out. So Farmer Bob in South Dakota has 500 head. He's going to sell them to an auction yard. Auction yard's going to sell them to JBS. And I have some friends there. They don't like me, but I have some friends there. So the farmer made a little bit of money. The auction yard didn't do that for free. They charged a commission to sell them, right? They probably made 5%, 6% on the commission of 500 animals. You're talking 1,200 pound animals that are $2,500 to $3,000 each. It's a lot of money. Then they get sold to JBS. JBS is going to slaughter them. They're going to turn them into meat. They're going to sell them to UNFI or Cisco or a food distribution company. You can pick any company you want that distributes food. US Foods. So they're going to mark it up. Okay, they're going to get 13%. So you're going to get probably $200 an animal, or you're going to get maybe. Packers don't make a lot of money, about 8%, but they do billions of dollars. 8% of $1 billion is a lot of money. Then you're going to go to a food distributor like US Foods. They're going to put 13% on it. They're going to sell it to the grocery store. The grocery store is going to put 30% on it. That's the markup at retail. 30%. Publix, Whole Foods is higher. Costco only does 14 because they charge membership fees. So that's their agreement with their members, only 14%. Stop and Shop, 30%. So you've marked it up again. Then you buy it and you take it home. You have all the supply chain, all this margin. If the farmer could just literally slaughter an animal, cut a steak, and sell it to you, it'd be half price, because not every guy along the supply chain is taking his piece.
Thank you.
But they're making it illegal. They're making it. I mean, they're starting to want us to. They want us to USDA register gardens. I mean, it's becoming just absurd. This is where my libertarian side comes out of me. Sorry.
No, we have that too. I mean, we talked about that a lot tonight. But when I say that I'm left, it's not a Democrat Republican thing. It's a populist thing. It's a universal
100%.
thing.
Yep.
Right. So when we go in that direction, we end up with a bunch of libertarians. And when it comes to civil liberties, I am extremely there.
And so am I. I'm about individual freedom. I'm about your right to do what you want to do. And if you're a farmer and you want to make money selling to your neighbors, God bless you. And if you're a Hasidic Jew in Brooklyn and you don't want to buy into the mainstream anything, God bless you. Do your thing. I just really believe in individual freedom. And I think that's what sets me apart with a lot of my really conservative friends.
Yeah.
And not only that, but this is honestly, if this was not an issue, the carbon footprint reduction you would get from this alone would be substantial, that it would actually be noticeable.
Yes. The regenerative, and I have a whole chapter on regenerative farming, of getting the nitrogen into the soil instead of the air where it belongs. And, one of the things this is how detached the USDA is. I think it was 10 years ago, they paid $18 million study to measure the gas coming out of a cow. Okay. Methane doesn't come out of their ass. It comes out of their mouth. They belch the methane. But they spent $20 million almost to measure. It's just, they have no idea what they're talking about. And it just shows it's another government hey, we have money, let's spend it, and it's not helping consumers or Americans.
Okay, so this will be a great libertarian talking point that I know you will appreciate. I was under the impression that it was cow farts. That's what they've always said.
Cows don't fart.
This is no different than when people were saying that they were twisting Joe Rogan's words, who was saying, I took ivermectin, and they're like, you took horse paste. And it's like, no, there's horse paste, and then there's human medicine that you can take. Why is there this constant need to lie to the American public? It's blatantly dishonest. Like, so, there's no gray area here. Like,
it's 100% lies. So cows are ruminants. They have 4 stomachs. They're not like us. They don't have the same digestive system. They don't eat meat. They have 4 chambers that move through there. All of the methane that comes out of a cow is belched out its mouth. Okay. And it is real. And it definitely, it's not a fake thing. Okay. But it doesn't come out their ass. It's not a fart. It has nothing to do with it. And it's absurd. Now, the way we manage their manure is a big deal. We need to start putting that in a way that it's not going into water. You know, there's lots of things about that. But you're right. It's one of the biggest lies in the world, where we're told a little bit of a fact and everyone just goes with it and thinks it's gospel. Because most people really don't read. They believe everything they hear in cable news, and they just say, all right, this is the way we're going to do it. And it's absurd. And I'll tell you what, we've learned. Here's another big quiet secret no one wants to talk about. And this is, Google this. This is a true fact. This is research. This is University of London. This is Texas A&M. There's a massive commercial feedlot in Oklahoma doing this today. I'm talking a feedlot with like 60,000 animals. This is huge. You can feed dehydrated seaweed to cattle in small pellet forms, and it reduces their output of carbon by like 60%. I mean, massively.
I saw that. You definitely had some cool, like I even like made notes of the things like that we can do that can change it. But quite honestly, if the animals were all eating grass, we wouldn't have this situation that we're in right now. Like, it would be significantly less of a problem.
The water used to grow the corn to feed the cattle, waste. The corn going into the cattle that just does a quick gain and doesn't add any nutrients. The amount of nutritional iron, zinc, and there's all sorts of different minerals when a grass-fed animal is processed. All we're doing is we're ruining good beef that could be easily grown on CRP land, and I think. Look, I've reduced my red meat intake. I not because of any moral thing. I just think for my health, my own thing. I just don't think I need that much. I love protein. I do still eat a little chicken. A ton of fish. Love raw fish. But if we could get back to, I'm going to call it steak or beef, red meat being the exception, not the norm, not the everyday.
Right.
I mean, it's an indulgence. To me, steak, my Thursday night steak is chocolate cake. It's not something I'm doing every day. You know, it's like bourbon and a cigar. I like it. Is it great for me? No, but I really enjoy it. I like the charge you get out of it. But I don't have anything else with it. I just have the steak. I don't have salad, potato, nothing. So I really believe truly that if we could make beef I don't mean luxury as an expensive, but as an occasional thing we do because it makes you feel good. I just met a woman named what's her name? Susie Cameron. She wrote a book called One Meal a Day, and she's like, just take one meal a day and go plant-based, just one. If you could, I mean, it's literally 200,000 gallons of water a year. It's like driving. A semi truck from LA to New York is like, all right, I can do one meal a day plant-based. Fine. Maybe it's my breakfast is avocado, toast, whatever it is. But I'm a huge proponent of that. Let's just find ways to do it better and not have to go to this extreme level of you must give up meat tomorrow. It's just not realistic.
Okay,
90% of America eats meat.
I want Scott to burst everyone's bubble.
Scott froze.
He froze.
Hopefully
he froze. So I saw somebody on here talking about like the Wagyu or Wagyu. He'll come back. Okay. All right. So before you can go, you need to burst everyone's bubble because the Kobe and the Wagyu and all the fancy stuff, because people are all into that and they believe that. So can you please dispel the nonsense about that?
Yeah. So first of all, if you're eating Kobe, chances are it better be expensive, and there better be very little of it, because we have what's called we have a limit of what we're allowed to bring in to America, and it's like 60 pounds a week. It's not that much. So the
everyone
chances,
who's saying they can't all be eating Kobe.
there's no chance. I mean, the chance you're eating real Kobe beef in America is slim to freaking none. Okay, and that's where I would challenge everybody. Okay, the tariff is ridiculous and the limit is tiny. Now Wagyu is different. Wagyu is allegedly Kobe genetics blended with American Angus to create the Wagyu. Now, first of all, I'm going to say this. I spent probably 10 years thinking Wagyu was absolute bunk and crap, and just not even just a marketing, just junk. Then I had real Wagyu. I actually had twice. I had it in Nebraska and Omaha, and it was astounding. And I had it in Boulder, Colorado, by the 3 Bar group I mentioned, and it was grass-fed Wagyu. It was astounding. Now, in between those 2 times, the only 2 times that I've had real Wagyu, where I knew the ranch, I knew the guy, I knew the producer, I knew the ranch, I knew everything. I knew for a fact where he killed it and where it came. I've had probably 100 Wagyus, and none of them have been anything more than, I think, old dairy cow. I think it was a 5-year-old dairy cow that's really fat, got a marble. Let's call it Wagyu, and it's just BS.
I have been very very fortunate. I've been given the same what I would call value system as my father. He was self-made, but one thing that he always did over the years is he never shortchanged me when it came to food. And so when it came to eating red meat at a time when I did, we would go to like Bernard Doyle's out on Long Island. We would go to
great spot.
Yeah, we would go to you go to Capitol Grill. And
there's nothing wrong with Capitol Grill. It's one of the best chains in America.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't sell them anything. I got no leverage there, but I think they do a good job of really sourcing quality product. And I'm just saying that because I eat there.
No, it's good to know if you think some place is good.
But
because
I can name 10 other steak chains, low end and high end. I'll say Morton's and whatnot. I just wouldn't eat there. They don't go through the same process. But I know, by having eaten at, by personal experience, the Capitol Grill does a great job of sourcing great meat.
And what you have to remember, and this is also the problem with the fact that we have a broken economic system in our country as it stands today, people can't afford $100 for a steak. And so if you want to eat $100 steak, especially at the Capitol Grill, and I can still remember the time where this was right after Hurricane Sandy, and we were stuck in Philadelphia, and we went to the Capitol Grill, and I just remember being like, my God, I mean, this is, if you're going to eat meat, this is the way it's supposed to taste. So I think a great place to close the conversation is to really discuss just how volatile the fast food industry is in this country, the things that they have done to not just systemically destroy working class communities, because they have. I mean, let's be honest, when we think about the advertisements, when you think about the deliberate racially charged advertisements that McDonald's puts out there alone is really effed up. The fact that they really focus on the Black community. I mean, to me, there has to be there's something to be said about the meat consumption in the United States and the role that fast food plays in making this industry so completely decimated in so many ways.
I'm gonna jump in and say that I completely agree with you. And it's not just McDonald's; it's all fast food. They all play on a very, very low income demographic. They all play on a very quick fix. Every one of their buns and every one of their restaurants laced with sugar, which
sweet
is more
salt and fat,
more addictive than nicotine.
Yep.
And I'm not going to plug my book, but I'm going to say, if you do read my book, and I'm going to send you both a copy, chapter 15, what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say, and what it really means, talks about this. It talks about this. So the McDonald's is fast food. Let's just say fast food. They're massively talented marketing people. They're massively talented targeting. And when they start nailing a demographic that's most willing to spend, I remember when I was a kid in college, Taco Bell had 59, 69, 70. I was 3
Yeah.
minutes.
69, 89, 109. I remember
Oh yeah,
the ad.
no.
I remember the
Oh yeah,
ad.
no, we all did a run for the border.
Yeah, exactly. So it's absurd. But if you look at what Burger King did with the Impossible Burger, it's the same thing. They marketed the hell out of this. It's good for the environment. It's saving people. It's good for you. It's 27 freaking ingredients. They only disclosed 13 of them. They did the exact same thing with this Frankenburger as they do with their regular hamburger and charge the shit out of it. And people are going and they're like, okay, I'll take the Frankenburger with the sugar bun. I want all the accoutrements. I want a chocolate shake, a large fries, and I'll throw in a Mountain Dew. You're not eating healthy. You're actually destroying people. You're destroying them economically because you're in their communities and they work for you and you're paying them shit. You're feeding them and you're feeding them shit. And then you literally continue to market to them in their same communities as you feed them and as you pay them absolutely nothing and walk away with a good conscience. It's ridiculous. I mean, the fact that you can buy McDonald's meal for less than a can of Alpo dog food is pathetic. And I'm really frustrated with processed foods in general. That just really angers me. What processed foods in retail and in food service, which is McDonald's, but it's pathetic what they're playing on and what they're doing and who they hire. And it seems their employees are actually their same demographic. And I think it's a professional screw job. I grew up in a very working class family. My dad was a carpenter. My mom was a bank teller. I grew up incredibly working class. But like you, my dad put good steak on the table. Okay. My mom, she shopped. We went to bashes in Arizona. We bargain shop. We used coupons. But we never had fast food because to us, it was like, why? It just didn't happen. My mom made beans and rice and we put steak on it. It's just, I get so frustrated when I go because I go to Philadelphia a lot, like you said, and I go to Fishtown and I go to these areas and I see lines of people going into these fast food restaurants. And what they're really getting isn't a meal or nutrition. It's a quick fix. And they're buying it from their sister or their brother, the cousin that's working there, making fuck all an hour. And it pisses me off.
Yeah. No, it's very frustrating.
Sorry for the foul language.
No, it's okay. I use it. It's a vicious cycle. And you see it in communities that need healthy food the most are food deserts. And then what you see is just every fast food restaurant. And that is what's affordable because it's infinitely more affordable for them to go get a meal at McDonald's than to go shop at Whole Foods. So
possible. And it's impossible. So how do you tell a guy that's literally come off his Subway shift at 11 p.m. at night, he's jumping on the train and he's starving. He spends his $7 on a hamburger and a shake to go home to get up to work at the grocery store in the morning. How do you tell him you can't do that? No, they've found the cycle and they play on it. And it's
really, it's a problem. And a big part of it is political and the agricultural industry is huge. And you had mentioned that even what should be the entire agricultural industry is really just big meat.
That's all it is.
Right. Like that's the whole thing. It's meat.
And I'm going to push back on here goes with this idea that without processed foods, most people would starve. Well, the truth of the matter is,
yes.
But the truth of the matter is we don't have the basic elements of what could allow people to survive. We don't have community gardens, which could be everywhere, quite frankly. Yep. You want to have organic fruits and vegetables. You want to have composting, horticulture, bee colonies.
We don't even have mandatory rooftop solar and we live in Florida.
Like to me, the solutions are there, but it's kind of like when people get so fixated on Trump, when in reality, that
derangement. It's derangement.
It is
because he's so far from the real problem here. Like anyone who thinks that
Such
Trump
a symptom.
It's like, you know what, for somebody who's in your line of work, Scott, the idea that somebody thinks that Trump is more dangerous than Bill Gates is not paying attention.
Right. That's hilarious.
Like it's just not paying attention. Like you're completely asleep at the wheel.
The problem is how we got Trump, not that we got Trump.
Right.
The problem is what caused the populist movement to say, freaking give us anybody.
Yeah.
Give us
anybody. I can tell you the answer. It's very easy. Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is what everyone looked at and said, hell no. And that is what happened. Literally, that's what happened.
And when everybody goes back and talks about, well, Hillary got more votes, I try to tell people all the time, do you understand that Hillary spent almost more than $1 billion?
Most expensive campaign in the world.
No, more than $1 billion than Trump spent.
Yeah.
It was like, if you wanted this to, like, if this was an even election in terms of money being spent, Trump would have blew her away. Like, it wouldn't have been.
There's no question. And I don't want to get into the 81 million votes for Biden. We'll talk about that.
No,
but
I think
what I will say is that if you want to talk about nutrition and health, and you want to talk about local gardens, you're going to see. I'm going to make some predictions here. We can check it. We'll check back in March of next year.
Okay.
So right now, the USDA is requiring certain size large gardens, whether it's a community garden or a personal garden. If it's over a certain square footage, you have to register the garden with the USDA. I want you to check on that. This is real. The USDA is now requiring you register your garden. My grandma, who lives in Prescott, Arizona, who's freaking 90, gardens tomatoes and jalapenos, because of the size, they're going to want her to register her garden. Absurd. It's just control. Okay.
I mean, that's it right there. It really
the second thing that's going to happen is beef prices are going to go through the freaking roof. You talked about this a little bit. Not everyone can afford a $100 steak. I think when this recession finally catches up to us and kicks in by March of 2023, you're going to see ground beef at ribeye prices around $10 a pound. And I think you're going to see tenderloin filet mignon around $100, $109 a pound. And I think this is going to be shocking. And what's going to happen is it's not going to be that, like, people like me that I can buy a $60 steak. Okay. I can. But I'm not going to buy a $100 steak. I'm not stupid. I'm not gluttonous. Yeah. But people that have been buying burgers for $3.99 and $4.99, they don't have $10 a pound. And a pound of meat's not a lot. You can't feed 4 people on a pound of meat. You try cooking up, take a brick of ground beef. It's everywhere. Cube it in 4s, quarter pounders. Cook it. It's nothing. It's like a sprinkle on a nachos. You can't feed anyone with that. So beef is going to kill itself through pricing and the recession. It's going to price itself out of the market. And I think people are going to be looking at alternatives. And it's not Bill Gates Franken meat. It's not processed meat. That's not the alternative.
Talk about your new business then. Like, what is that you're doing that's plant-based?
Yeah, so it's really cool. So I bought a chocolate company in Martha's Vineyard about 3 years ago called Not Your.
How do I not know that? How do you get that's freaking crazy. I never had any real interest in going to Martha's Vineyard, and now you just said chocolate.
All right, so if Jen ever
how did I not know this?
So if Jen ever runs for office again, you'll have to host her like a chocolate. You'll have to host like a chocolate party. Like
I had no idea. Okay, I like you more now. All right, I didn't know there was chocolate.
All 11 progressives on the vineyard I live in my neighborhood. So anyhow, so I bought this company. It's raw cacao, vegan, paleo, gluten-free chocolate. There's no dairy. There's no artificial sweetener. There's no sugar. It's not even cooked. It's ground raw cacao. It's amazing. It's a superfood. It's really good for you. Like, if you're hungry, you have a little square of this. It's like it's satisfying. It's a probiotic, but it's not gonna evacuate you. It's good for you. So we had this chocolate company called Not Your Sugar Mamas, and a woman named Kai Keenan she founded it. I bought it, helped her out. And then I'm like, we need some other SKUs. We need some other, what do you want to do? She's a vegan, and I own a beef company. So it's like, we're
perfect marriage.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I'm like, what should we do? She's like, well, I make this kind of plant-based cheese in my kitchen. And well, let's try it. So what she does is she takes, we developed this. Now it's commercial. Now we're in Whole Foods. It's huge. I wish I had some samples. It's cashew based, and you basically take cashews and you boil them. And then it gets all anything, negative out of there, any bacteria out of there. Then you emulsify them through this grinder, and then you turn it, it's like a hummus. You turn it into a paste. And then you turn it into a puck, like a hockey puck. You add a white penicillin mold bacteria, which is called a culture. We put in a Cambria, which is another aging thing. And we age it for 14 days, and it tastes like the real thing. It tastes like brie, like creme. It tastes like blue cheese. It's got the flavor. It's rich and strong. It's unbelievable. So I started this thing, and all of a sudden Whole Foods jumped on it. It's going to Whole Foods. It's going 5,000 units a week. It's flying out the door. And I'm making it at a place in Lincoln, Rhode Island, called Wild Tree, which doesn't exist anymore. And they call me. They're like, "Hey, we got some bad news for you." I'm like, "What's up?" Like, "Well, we're going out of business." I'm like, "No, I just got a Whole Foods contract for a year, and I have a Trader Joe's private label agreement that you're not, you know." So I basically did some research, found out who owned it, and I jumped in and I bought the business. It just closed last Thursday, the 23rd. It's 146,000 square foot facility in Lincoln, Rhode Island, and we make everything. I changed the name to Plants to Food. We turn plants into food. And basically we take anything. We make avocado mayonnaise. We make marinaras, salad dressings. We do a hard-boiled egg that's coconut based. I mean, anything that's plant-based we can make, whether it's cheese, chocolate, and it's the largest single facility to make plant-based foods for for any company that's got a product or a brand. And I'm really excited about it. I literally haven't even put up a website yet. I spent a ridiculous amount of money on it. But we are in about 50% of American grocery stores, and it's literally a low
Plants to Food.
Plants to Food. Yeah, there should be a LinkedIn account someday.
But you're also you're in a Trader Joe's, but just not under that name.
Well, we're in Whole Foods under our name Happiest, which is my cheese company. We are in Sam's Club, Walmart, Costco with Avonnaise, which is an avocado mayonnaise. We have 44 SKUs, and it's going great. I'm really excited about it. It's not just from the business. It's not just the business perspective. Is that we are only doing like 5 to 6 ingredients. Like if you've got more than 7 ingredients, we got to have a conversation. So low ingredient, long shelf life, affordable plant-based foods. That's the goal. So I don't want to be, I don't want to be the guy selling a $20 piece of, I want to be like $9 and it's good for you. So I'm excited about it. And I still own the beef company, and I have a charcuterie business in Denver, and I got a lot going on. But this is, I believe, as we all transition to not all, but more of a plant-based lifestyle, that there's going to be a role for some processed foods, but it's got to be low ingredients, and it's got to be something that's good for you. Like if I eat my cheese, I can eat a brick of my cheese in 20 minutes with a box of Triscuits, but it's like eating a handful of cashews. It's not unhealthy. It's not bad for your stomach. So
I would definitely say, and it's killing me right now because I was at.
It's amazing to have plant-based and meat on the other. It's sort of like playing both parties.
There was a fantastic vegan restaurant that I had the chance to go to that was in Providence, and it's
Plant City.
That's it.
Oh my
God. That's it.
Oh my God.
Wow. And, you're good, man.
It's owned by a woman. It's owned by a woman named Kim Anderson, and she's genius. And she set me up. I said, "This is what I want to do," and she put out her LinkedIn stuff. This woman is brilliant. She's one of my business heroes, and that is one of the most amazing restaurants. It is picture Italy. But plant-based.
Awesome.
I don't remember.
That's awesome.
I don't remember everything that I had, but I would just tell you that as an example of non-processed, but just something that if you're really creative in the kitchen, you can make it great. Basically, buffalo cauliflower bites.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. You don't have to eat chicken. Just eat that. Trust me. It's going to taste a little different, but it's pretty freaking awesome.
I don't crave.
I'm actually throwing a party on Sunday at the facility, at my Plants to Food facility, with Susie Cameron and her group, what's called One Meal a Day, and Plant City's catering it. And I'm really excited because it's like not only one of my favorite plant-based food, it's one of my favorite restaurants.
That's awesome.
There's one are you in Philly a lot?
I am from my father lives by the Jersey Shore in a town called.
Have you been to Veg?
I have not been to Veg. I know of it. I have not been there.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Like probably my top 3 restaurants in the country.
Oh my! This has been one of the great shows
I'm
tonight.
very pleased.
So one of my very best friends.
Veg is off the charts.
This is your friend Dom.
One of my best friends in the world who lives in North Jersey. He lives just outside of Morristown. How come to make you never cauliflower bites? I mean, this guy is this. He comes from a Sicilian family. So you're talking about everything is all about
Got it.
To get him not beat it, but the idea that people are willing to try, that they're willing to give these things a try, and as you said. And it's very true. There is a huge difference between eating vegan like you would at a place like Plant City and eating something like what you're going to get in a Beyond Meat
That's
burger.
not real food.
Frankenfood.
Frankenfood. I don't
You
eat
might as
that.
well have a Twinkie. You would be at the same nutritional value as
Thank
taking
you.
take an Oreo, deep fry and batter it. It's the same nutritional as the Beyond.
I
Burger.
love a deep fried battered Oreo. Do
And
not be teasing me with a good time, man. I love
But
that.
all I'm trying to say is that it's still vegan.
Yeah. You're
Well,
right.
you are justifying a very large portion of my diet.
You are one of the.
I'll just
truly-
look. I'm better off just eating a deep fried Oreo.
You are definitely. You are not just. And thank you for being such an amazing supporter of Jen. It meant a lot.
No, I'm happy to. I hope you run again, Jen. I want to help.
Yeah. Well, listen. If she does run again, she'll definitely be. I think the country is really.
I'll call you on a Thursday night.
You almost get the sense, and you know this, Scott. And I've got one last question to ask, but you almost get the sense that the country is on the verge of turning a corner. Everything is the night is
close.
always,
I totally agree.
The night is always darkest before the
Yep.
dawn. People
Yep.
have to remember that when it seems really bad, it's like the dam is going to break. And you mentioned the spring of 23. Do you feel that we're heading towards almost like a
Apocalypse?
like an iceberg? Like, do you feel that we're getting to that point where people are just going to put their hands up and say, "I can't take this shit anymore"?
I think it's going to be a little more subtle than a big iceberg. There's not going to be a big, explosion or a bounce. I think what you saw, like in Italy, where a populist was just elected massively. And I think in Norway too, or was it the Netherlands? I think that you're going to see people just saying, "We've had enough. All right, let's just. We don't hate each other as much as you want us to think we hate each other. We actually kind of are fine with." My two best friends are a lesbian married couple from Philadelphia, and we have shit in common, but we love each other. And I think that, I think the country's really, I think we're going to desensitize ourselves to the oversensitivity. And I think we're going to see people just decide, I've really had enough. But the economy is going to drive that. I do believe there's going to be a crash in agriculture. I know supply chain. I know what it takes to feed an animal, and I've never seen what I'm seeing today. I know what it takes to put chickens on the market, poultry on the market. I know what it takes to ship food. 3 years ago, 3 years ago, I could ship a full semi-load, 42,000 pounds, from Swedesboro, New Jersey to Los Angeles for $2,800. That same route today is $10,000.
Jesus Christ!
It's not going to last. It's not going to last.
Oh.
It's going to have to pop. So that's my thoughts. And I don't want to be an alarmist, but we got to live in reality. And I think we need a reset, just not the great reset. And I think that Jen, to quote my British friends, if you don't run again, it'd be rude not to.
Oh, that's so nice. We're thinking about 24. I actually, this year, we were being redistricted. Yeah. And in order to have run this year, we would have to be running a grassroots campaign in a district that we don't know the boundaries to.
I think you should let everything reset. I think you should let I think you're in a great position to wait, see what happens. And when you're ready to go and you know what the district looks like, and we see what the economy does, what interest rate does, what the supply chain does, we see what this stupid war that's got to end like tomorrow. My biggest thing is I'm incredibly anti-war in general. I hate intervention.
Libertarians and progressives.
This
is another major issue that they
interventionist wars in general are just pathetic. What strikes me the worst is, I'm going to get back to Jen in a second. There's no attempt at diplomacy right now. They're not even trying to talk.
No.
That's where it's bullshit. That's where it's money. And
sorry, there's profit to be had, baby. Way too much money.
And now we're going to prove another 12 billion. Another 12 billion.
It's like anybody who looks at this and doesn't realize that again, you can say that NATO was the main impetus for Putin to do what he did. The rich natural resources that are in West Ukraine, Putin wants it and we want it. And that is it. It's like every war is fought over money and resources.
I'll turn this personal. So I'm engaged. My fiance is Ukrainian. Mm-hmm. Her name is Katerina Kostyochenko. I got her mom out right after the war started. She's in Strasbourg, France. Her father's still there in a town called Koriston. And there's no question we're all after the same thing. We're after the territory. We're not after the positioning of missiles. We're not after NATO. We're after grain, oil, and natural gas. We're after all the same things we go into Central America and South America for. And it's absolutely, you can see where they've put troops. You can see where they've put defense. It's not around people and hospitals.
No.
It's around freaking natural resources. And it's sad. My girlfriend's she's in the U.S. She's in college at Arizona State. She's going to law school. She's going to be a lawyer here in May. And very smart, speaks 7 languages, incredibly intelligent. And it's hard. You know, every day she basically talks to her parents till 2 or 3 in the morning, and hearing them talk about the confusion and the sadness and the TV and the media and the YouTube and what's real. And they all know it's grain, it's natural gas, and it's Western resources.
Yep.
People
And
know.
it's sad. It's sad.
It is. And yet, even after all these years, people are still hoodwinked by corporate media.
Well, that's all they get. If they don't, you have to really seek out other information if you want it. But
that's not, look, here's freedom. Here's freedom in America. Okay. Here's freedom. All right. I don't really care if you want to put a chip in my finger. I don't really care if you want to track my phone. I don't really care if I have to get a shot. As long as I've got Netflix, an Applebee gift card, and I've got all the shit I need to be happy in my little world with sports, and I've got Saturday college, so I got Sunday pro football, and I'm good. That's freedom. Just give me my shit and leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I have $1,000 cell phone. I'm fine. Leave me alone. That's freedom.
Yeah.
And that's where we've confused individual rights and true thought with what freedom is.
Right. I appreciate you so much coming on. And if and when we do run again, I will definitely be calling you.
I am sorry to stream on, and I appreciate you. And I think you run a great race, and it's great to meet both of you. And I'm just honored you guys had me on.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I will say this, of all the places, for somebody as financially successful as you, of all the places that you've picked to live in the country, you live in the dream world of the liberals in Martha's Vineyard.
Seriously.
And you live in the dream world of conservatives in Scottsdale. So
I'll say this real quick. I grew up in Arizona. I was born and raised. I'm from Phoenix. I moved to Martha's Vineyard 21 years ago and fell in love with the community, not the politics. And I'm able to look through that stuff. So I'm a very, very fortunate person. Thank you, guys.
Well, if what happened recently is any indication, it is absolutely about the people and not.
I can't wait for you guys to come to the chocolate fundraiser.
Thank
you, Scott. Have a great night. Bye-bye. Well, was he?
Oh, he's lovely. But I knew, I'm telling you, I randomly cold called him when I was fundraising, and he answered his phone, and it was kind of weird. And I get off the phone with him, and I'm like, that's interesting. So I just look him up, and I'm like, oh, he just happens to be the owner of the largest grass-fed beef production company or whatever, cattle in the country.
I also want to give a shout out to our chat. You guys have been, we've gotten to about 25 viewers at once tonight. Again, obviously we'd love to have hundreds of viewers, but you guys have been fantastic. You guys have really kept it lively. I'm sure it's helped bring in some additional people to the chat. I've noticed a lot of very positive comments regarding Scott and him being in it. That's one of the better interviews.
Well, and look, we generally, I think for the most part, people in our chat are reasonable people, or they wouldn't be watching our show.
There was one guy who I think was probably coming from Osiris's show who earlier was like, yeah, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm out. I'm like, okay, whatever. Right. You can't, there he is. Duh, like you expected anything else. The privilege delusion, just like red hands aren't on that methane pipeline that suddenly burst. Nice talk.
Well, this is somebody who I think referred to me as a commie.
This is the guy who called you a commie?
I think it was something about red hands aren't on that methane pipeline. Like you can't
get everybody, ladies.
They're just anti-Russia.
You can't get everybody.
I don't have a problem with Russia. My family's Russian.
Once you see through
my great grandparents came from Russia.
Once you see through the mass delusion, there's just no going back. And what
he definitely knows a lot about meat.
That is for sure.
He knows a lot about meat.
Dom, when I am swimming in money, I'm going to get you a very nice Christmas present that's going to involve one of the prime meat steaks that I can get from Mr. Lively. He maybe he'll give me that as a Christmas present. You never
I'll
know.
probably send you meat.
Maybe
You want
he
meat?
would.
You want a box of meat?
Yeah, well, you know, like this whole joke about those Omaha steaks. You know, the reality is, if you want a
It's all one
if you want a
company is the
Kansas City
thing.
ribeye or whatever, I mean, honestly, that's probably where most of them are coming from. But you know, we started the show with a very important discussion, and we'll close with it. You know, the big reason why it's such a significant deal that they're not bringing the banned stock trading by Congress to the floor. The reason this is such a big deal is because the country's already cratering as it is. We're already in a very bad place, and what the so-called leaders, even though there really are,
I'm tired of that.
even though there are servants,
they are our servants.
they don't work for us.
They're not leaders. They're
They
supposed
work-
to be representatives.
Now, one would say, well, this is just what corporate special interests want. No, this is actually a bill where you can directly point the finger at our representatives who see this as a free lunch.
Well, it is, but let's also be clear that even if they voted on it, apparently, again, that it's written in such a way that it has no real teeth.
But again,
so even if they voted, they don't even want you to see that what their vote would be on it, even if they voted for it, it really wouldn't impact them very much.
But again,
Huge loophole.
But herein lies the rub. Even if that were the case, even if it was a shit bill, kind of like the infrastructure bill or the Inflation Reduction Act bill. Most people have no clue what's in these bills. So even if they put forward a really crappy bill saying, hey, we're going to stop stock trading. Oh, by the way, all our family members are going to be able to do it for us. So it's not like it's going to stop. They don't even have enough political acumen to actually see that, yeah, we probably should deal with this right now, especially for the midterms, because this is a really big problem. A lot of people really don't like this.
They would probably be a lot more supportive of that if they didn't have the Roe v. Wade thing right now. They'd have to find something. They'd have to give you something.
But the idea that they're banking on Roe v. Wade to
that's
carry the
all
day, that's dangerous.
Yeah, but that's all they have. And especially in a place like Florida where we haven't had a ballot initiative yet or anything that's gone through, and they're just waiting to see what happens. That's going to motivate a lot of women to come out and vote Democrat because they believe that will help them in that regard.
SG, thank you very much. That means a lot. Metaopoly, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong about Giorgia Meloni, because the first thing that she's done as acting prime minister is to basically cut a really important benefit package to the most disadvantaged people in society. It's like 500.
That's not populist.
Yeah, that ain't populist. That's screwing working people. Some people are desperate and need help. And if your first course of action is to go after them and not, let's say, rich banksters in the European Union who are screwing over the citizens of Italy, that's not populism.
No.
Again, I'm not going to say it's fascism.
Well, no, she is. That's her affiliation. I don't understand why people are being difficult about it. When you call somebody like DeSantis,
let Dom ask. That'll be good. I'd love to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot.
But and they very well might be right wing and like authoritarianism or whatever it is. And I'm not saying one way or another. I'm just saying she affiliates with a party that is fascist roots, fascist background, and they call themselves that. Like, she also has strong nationalistic tendencies and is clearly in favor of corporate actors.
If you go back,
that is fascism.
If you go back and look at the history of the Third Reich and how it rose from, again, 3-4% party affiliation within the country of Germany at the time. Remember, a lot of the issues that are existing today, particularly inflation, immigration, lack of economic opportunity. These are all the things that exist in parts of Europe as they do here in the States. And that's how these types of governments rise up. It's not because all of a sudden, oh, yeah, that's definitely what I want. It's like, no, what you currently are offering sucks. I don't have any other choice. So I'm going to get what is most likely going to help, at least, even if it's minimal in the interim. That's why things are so bad. Everyone wonders how we got Trump and how we're on the verge of potentially having DeSantis. It's like, if you can't see that the system is broken, that this isn't about saying, oh, this person's terrible and we have to vote again. No. If your argument is that we have to vote against somebody, you've already lost.
This one, Dems are bought out too and don't care about their voters. Yeah, we know. We say it all the time.
Correct.
We know that. They're just as corporate. There is no difference in terms of who they answer to. It's not people. It's the corporations. We know that. Eric, you're wondering what I think of, I don't call them pro-life, they're anti-choice. And what I think about forced birthers.
Yeah.
What I think about anti-choice women is what I think about anti-choice men. They think that their personal religion, their sanctimony should dictate my body. And I think that's absurd. And I will not debate the issue with them any longer. I won't discuss it. I won't negotiate it. I don't like that they're discussing, well, maybe in this case, in rape and incest. Get the hell out of here with that. My body, my choice. End of story. I think if I want an abortion in my 8th month because I want one, which I wouldn't, because that's not me, but that's none of anyone else's business except the person and their doctor. And by the way, doctors don't do that because you know what? It's not a thing. Late-term abortions are only when it's necessary.
Right.
There are no doctors that just let you come in and decide to terminate your pregnancy.
Can't get if you think you can get an abortion in the 3rd trimester without some type of a significant health issue, it's illegal.
At best in this country, there were only like 2 places in this country where you could get a 3rd trimester abortion. Most places don't even have where you can get a 2nd trimester abortion. And even places where abortion is legal, there are so few places that do it. So women that live in vulnerable communities haven't had access to it properly for years now. And to me, it's all ludicrous. It's our body. It's our choice. It's no one else's business.
Hari, I want to give a shout out to Andrew Yang and the Forward Party. I saw the Forward Party, Utah Forward Party meeting that they had the other day. Jen, they must have had like probably 70, 80 people at the meeting. Like that's, I mean, if you want to talk about, and again, we're talking about the early stages of trying to change the electoral narrative in the United States. We have been fully in agreement regarding if there's going to be a 3rd party movement in the United States, it's going to happen through the Forward Party. That's the most likely scenario.
Metalopoly very well might be selfish, but that's my right. You can't pick and choose your civil liberties when you want to apply them or not. You want the 2nd Amendment? I want all the amendments. I understand that it is not something that's pleasant. I understand that if a woman has a baby and you don't like the idea of that baby getting killed, I get it. I don't like it. It's not something I think of as a good thing, but it's not my business what someone else does with their person. And quite honestly, we shouldn't even know. Why are we even having this discussion? Do you come out of the doctor's office when I actually do announce when I get a colonoscopy, but like the point is like, I don't like what you do when you go to the doctor. You don't need to be discussing that. I don't need your opinion on how I handle other treatment. Why do I need your opinion on? I don't want it.
Osiris, thanks again for having us on. You'll definitely be back.
Thank you.
And again, here you can see. Well, you either have body
right.
autonomy.
You can't negotiate. There's not being a little bit.
There's laws in place already that prevent that type of behavior, metaopoly, that a lot of people on the right think is going on. It's not, because again, we are given false information all the time.
It's not going on. Doctors don't do that.
Why do we give false information?
Well, it keeps us more and more polarized.
Anytime there's divide and conquer opportunity, you'll take it, because if we start agreeing on things, that's dangerous to the people who are destroying this country. That is the bottom line.
Nobody likes abortion.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as, that's why we can't use the term anti-abortion, because that means that there's pro-abortion people, and that's ridiculous. There are people that are for choice, and there are people that are against choice. That's the only issue. None of us think that it's okay to kill people. We don't think that.
SG, I definitely agree. Andrew is not the long-term solution, and yes, he is funded by corporations.
And that's the problem.
But
that is a problem.
But what I will say, and you have to give credit where credit is due, getting 80 regular people to show up to a meeting about a 3rd party movement
is huge.
That's huge. That is huge.
And I will say this, if they focus on things like ranked choice voting and open primaries, and that's the stuff I will get behind those initiatives.
Sure.
You
not going to join the Forward Party.
No. Well, it isn't on the ballot.
But the reality is this: if we did have a 3rd option, if there was a legitimate 3rd option without a first past the post voting policy in the U.S., which does exist in a handful of states now, you got to get on those ballot initiatives, guys. What you have to remember is simply this: as soon as there is something other than this or the other, there is a 3rd, then that creates a completely different electoral dynamic in terms of being able to get your vote. And that's what it's about. It's just forcing their hand. It's forcing the Democrats to actually have a platform. Mm-hmm. They have nothing. All they can do is criticize. Fear. That's it. Well, and they go after the Republicans. That's all they can do. Mm-hmm. And so
no,
guys,
Yang is not a billionaire. He's just not.
No, he's got money.
Really not.
He's comfortable,
but he's
not wealthy.
No,
not even close.
Not like that.
No.
He lives a very normal in New York, which is definitely, I understand, not normal financially.
Dom, 100% correct. Yeah, we've got a lot of problems here at home that we need to be dealing with, and we're not dealing with them.
And a lot of the homeless are veterans.
Yeah.
That is a huge problem.
Yeah.
We only like people to be fodder for our wars on their way over there. Once they come back, we couldn't care less about them.
Guys, this has definitely been one of the better shows we've done in a while. The chat has been very lively. It's been great. We hope you will join us on Monday. We are going to have Saru Jairan. She'll correct me for being a fool, not being.
But just say who she's with.
She is the president of One Fair Wage. They are focusing on pushing a national, not minimum wage, but a national living wage, meaning that the wage should not be the same in every place.
No.
And it's correct, it shouldn't. Because cost of living in San Francisco is a lot different than Fresno, just like it's a lot different in Fort Lauderdale as it would be in, let's say, Charlotte County, Florida. There is a huge difference between how these things are. And so having a national living wage, which again, what is the goal? Fiscal conservatism, of those of you paying attention. Having a living wage means that you don't have to be on the government dole for subsidy. Like working at a Walmart or working at a Sam's Club or any of those corporations, for anything that is Amazon or Walmart connected. Their goal is to pay you so little and still get you to take the job.
McDonald's, by the way, when you go to work at McDonald's and you
Walmart, and
you go to these places to apply for jobs, they also give you the forms for government assistance.
Welfare. Ain't that wonderful?
It's like the food stamps. Like when you go to work at those, they give you those forms with it because they know you're not going to make enough money to live. And the fact that the government, and which again, who is the government? It's us. So we're subsidizing their workers and they're still making record profits. So their workers are getting paid by us, but yet they're making all the profit. This is why we need to end right to work laws and we need to have stronger labor unions.
Damn right. Colanello, thank you for the support. You guys have all been great. Thank you so much. If you're not currently subscribed, make sure that you are. But as you know, it is the end of the show and we have to do one final plug. So of course, go to patreon.com/generational change. If you are not currently a patron of our channel, patron, whatever, we hope that you will consider for as little as $5 a month, like getting a foot long at Subway. Will definitely,
Frankenmeat.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh, actually, tuna
never mind.
tuna.
The tuna wasn't tuna, and the pink. Yeah, I know. All right. Put your money to better use.
$5 a month.
Put your money to better use than going to get fast food this evening and support our channel. And why would they want to support our channel, Jen?
Well, we do a lot of good things. Our money that comes in here goes towards local service, local organizations that we know are helping people on the ground level. And we also support non-corporate and or nonpartisan candidates.
We are also very much involved with not just the non-corporate candidates, but non-corporate initiatives locally, whether it is community gardens, whether it is our wonderful, there are plenty of nonprofits out there, but one in particular, and there will be others that we will obviously highlight, but we are huge supporters of Mobile School Pantry, an organization that really goes out of their way to help with organic fruits and vegetables, other healthy foods. They have a little bit of tasty treats here and there, but overall, very healthy.
You never
food.
eat that stuff.
I don't. I eat all the healthy stuff.
I eat all the junk.
But for many of the underserved communities throughout Broward County, Mobile School Pantry does a great job. We support their organization, and because of your support, we will be attending their
Just Say No to Hunger.
Just Say No to Hunger cocktail party, which will be, it's been rescheduled as a result of the hurricane.
And we're getting to go and support that organization
October
because
12th.
of the money that comes in from this. So that's what we use it for. We use it to local service.
Yes.
And for $10 a month, if you were to be a $10 a month patron, in addition to my Lulu sticker, which I don't have one sitting here, but we have very cute Lulu stickers. They're big Lulu stickers. You get one of these, which I know it's I have a very strange sense of humor, but it amused me to no end because I figure if I'm going to be supporting somebody in the Democratic Party, it should be the people with the most power, which are apparently these people, because this is the reason we couldn't get things done. So if they're holding up everything, then we need to vote for them because they clearly have all the power.
Well, apparently he doesn't have as much power because apparently Bernie was able to stick it to Manchin this week, and which is always a great thing. I mean, who could possibly complain about that? That's always great. And yeah, I don't know if it's possible, but you think maybe we were also getting more of a surge in the viewership based on the time?
No, I think there's so many variables trying to figure it out. It's so ridiculous. Like everything that we do is always a different thing.
If it was a Just World, we'd probably have a couple of hundred people watching at any one time because I think our content is great.
No, we do have good content and we have good guests, but again, we don't do this for
Emerald, you rock! We'll get one. Finally, the plugging works. And of course, if you are really, really super and considerate and really want to help our show, you could be a $25 a month patron. And that, of course, is reserved for only a couple of people as of right now.
But that gets you a jersey.
That gets you a jersey.
Gets you this jersey.
Little fancy jersey.
They're really comfortable and they're the soft tri-blend. Our shirts are too. We're very spoiled. If we ever have another campaign, we're definitely going with these nicer shirts.
Yeah, the quality of them really makes a difference.
It does.
Course, and we also had tank tops, which was one.
Well,
of
I'm not. I will not have a campaign without tank tops. Any woman who, I would have just cut all the sleeves off.
Now, if you are so inclined to support our show, but you really don't want to give your credit card information for an
you don't want to be renewed. You
Correct.
don't want to. You
then
want to
what
just.
You can do, which would be a big help.
Throw us a Cash App.
Yeah, just go to Cash App. That is the easiest way to support the channel without having to be connected with your personal information. As I know, a lot of libertarians really don't want that. So you can go to Cash App. $GenChange to support our work. And again, this is not a show where we are drawing a salary.
No, we don't.
This is a show where we are really trying to help.
We're really trying to help. And we do try to, we've got a lot of people that do volunteer to help us, like the people who help us with video work, because we really don't have money for any sort of payroll. And so we do from time to time like to throw money at the people that are helping us. So we do that. And that's something that I really appreciate when people can help us out.
But as we alluded to earlier, this has been a really great show. Definitely one of our, can I just make it dirty? Come on. If you really want to support us, go to Cash App, toss us a few bucks. You're a great supporter.
$5 bill.
I think, the amount of money you'd spend having to send that $5 here, you would save yourself.
I don't even know what a forever stamp costs now.
Yeah, I don't either. I think, don't ask. Probably that $5 get lost in the mail anyway. Lord knows you can't trust it anymore. But you guys have been wonderful. It's been a great show. Definitely
what do we have coming up? We have from one fair wage.
Yes.
On Monday.
And we'll get some more stuff on the schedule. And the last thing we'll mention before we go is that the Deconstructing Zionism live stream that we're having on Saturday, October 15th, it is starting to come together.
It's starting to come together.
Got some top people that have already committed to coming on. So
yeah, I still have a couple of panels to work on. And but I am very happy. And one of the people I can share that has agreed to come on is Rabbi Brant Rosen. And if you guys are, anybody who is interested in this topic, look him up, and it's really impressive. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, that means a lot. And Eric, thank you for the offer. There may be opportunities again if you have a high-powered lens and can help with shooting. That's great. So again, thank you guys. Wonderful show. I really think we did good tonight. I think this is a good one.
Would you like a pat on the back?
I do. Because I have very low self-esteem and I need to constantly be told how special I am. I'm special. I'm definitely special. No, I'm just kidding. I am totally self-confident, and that is not a problem.
You're very special.
But you guys, thank you again. Glad you enjoyed. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, and comment as soon as we drop it. Appreciate your support. We'll see you Monday.
Bye, all.